Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett and former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Matthew, I want to start with you because in the United States, the facts have to match the law. That's why Jack Smith didn't charge Trump on these charges. Also, you look at precedent. This has been used, from what I can tell, a handful of times to prosecute Confederates. Was this intended, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, to disqualify someone like President Trump?
Yeah, Kayleigh, good to be with you. And I thought you did a great job outlining this. I mean, this is a very undemocratic, unconstitutional attempt at really election interference by the Colorado Supreme Court. I mean, this is a close call for them. It was a 4-3 decision. And when you take someone off the ballot and disqualify a candidate, it should be with unbelievable evidence. And the facts are very thin. One of the main facts they try to use, pieces of evidence, is the January 6th commission report, as we all know, was a hyper-partisan, never Trump type thing that was done by Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, and others. And they used that factual finding. But you're right. Jack Smith, who investigated this, did not charge insurrection. And I think the other thing that we need to do is the historical context is very important. The people that wrote the 14th Amendment and Section 3 of that knew what an insurrection was. They had just seen hundreds of thousands of their fellow citizens killed in a war between the states. And so they knew what an insurrection was. And in this case, there was a riot at the Capitol. Those people that participated were held accountable and have been prosecuted for that. But, at the end of the day, President Trump said, go peacefully and patriotically and have your voices heard. And this court just ignores anything that is evidence that helps President Trump. And the Supreme Court of the United States will clearly have the final say on this, and I expect they will reverse this ruling.
So we hope that's the case, the Supreme Court reversing this, Greg, because I had a lot of folks say to me, well, can't we just write in Trump's name in Colorado? But I have a line from the opinion here. The opinion in Colorado says the secretary may not list President Trump's name on the 2024 presidential primary ballot, nor may she count any write-in votes cast for him, literally taking away the will of the people.
Yeah, this is election rigging, Kayleigh. It was a narrow 4-3 decision. It will almost certainly, in my judgment, be overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court because the insurrection clause in the 14th Amendment, as you point out, don't apply to the facts here. It was intended to prevent Confederates who literally took up arms against the government during the Civil War from holding office. So you fast forward now 150 years roughly, and Donald Trump is not even accused of insurrection under the federal statute. And if evidence supported that, surely Jack Smith, as special counsel, would have charged him with it. So to remove Trump from the ballot for an offense that he hasn't even been tried or convicted of, what is that? Well, that's violating his right to due process, which just happens to be guaranteed by the very amendment, the 14th, and elsewhere in the Constitution. But, there's another factor here, Kayleigh. This as a lawyer. Under past Supreme Court rulings, the language used in the insurrection clause doesn't apply to the office of president or anybody running for it. Colorado officials here have, I think, brazenly manipulated the clause for purely political reasons. Another example of election interference by Trump opponents. This is an effort, make no mistake, to deprive American voters of their right to make the decision as to who should be president. It is anti-democratic. It's the equivalent of rigging the ballot box, and it will surely be seen that way, only inflaming voters and I think boosting support for the former president.
And Matthew, Greg makes a really important point right there. And there's been peer-reviewed articles written on this. Josh Blackman, a professor down in Texas, has made the point Greg just made, which is this is not intended to apply to the president. Section 3, another argument in the president's corner. But you're confident the Supreme Court overturns this?
Yeah, I am. And to that point, this talks about officers, but lists many, Senate, Congress, many offices that could be held, but it specifically excludes the office of the president. Now, the Supreme Court of Colorado says officer includes the president. But, there have been other state Supreme Courts that have looked at this. There have been other courts that have looked at this issue, and nobody's been willing to go out as far as this Supreme Court of Colorado has. And, the left is celebrating this today. But, just remember, you have 7 Democrats that were appointed by Democrat governors. I just see this as a completely partisan attempt. And, if you think about what the left is trying to do, they know that Joe Biden is very weak. The polls are not good for him. His policies are not working, especially on the southern border and in so many other places. And so many Americans are dying of fentanyl. I think this is an attempt by Democrat activist judges in Colorado to give Joe Biden a boost.
Matt Whitaker, Gregg Jarrett, thank you for your expertise.